Hey folks, Seawit here, and today I'm going to talk about a part of Perfect Team that I think many people use extremely wrong, the auction house for variance. I'll talk about why the auction house exists for variance due to how miserable the experience was last year for both buyers and sellers, and then talk about the major way that both buyers and sellers are using it wrong this year. Last year, Combinators, the old version of variance, used the card shop just as every other card did. Due to how rare that they were pulled, this led to issues on a few axes. First, since they were so rare and hard to value if you weren't a highly engaged player, this either led to cards being listed at exorbitant prices that no one would ever pay, prices way too low that whoever saw it on the card shop first would just snatch it up, or most likely just fill the highest buy order. This practice of filling the highest buy order basically led people to need to put out as many buy orders as possible on cards to always try and keep the highest buy order, just in case a card happened to be pulled and decided to be sold. This favored, firstly, the people that were on constantly and were able to keep one-upping buy orders or check the auction or check the card shop constantly, or the people that had a ton of points and were willing to spread out large numbers across as many cards as possible, just hoping for one to be pulled and be hit. The auction system solves a lot of these problems. It allows a pulled variant not to just go to the person who happened to be lucky and have either the highest buy order when pulled or just check the shop at the right time. It also pushes cards to their market value, so an unknowing player won't accidentally dump a six-figure perfect points worth card in the low fives. However, the change to an auction house changes the way in which you want to think about using it. So the absolute biggest thing that I see people do wrong this year when using the auction house is listing cards too high. They'll see a brand new card that they know is awesome and a meta card and start to shoot for the moon price. Or, as you see above, as this example here, seeing a card with a high L10 and listing it at L10 or even above it. Both of those methods are wrong, and in fact, might even lose you money in kind of a counterintuitive way. For the vast majority of variants, especially new ones with no L10, I highly recommend starting it low, whether that's at the minimum or 3 times the variant food value. So for example, all iron variants give 100 points, so going to 300, since 3 to 1 seems to be about the going value for what you're comfortable doing. Similarly, gold variants that go for 1,000 points, starting it at 3,000 minimum seems fair. But I know you want to get the highest number, and it feels counterintuitive to start a card lower, but you should probably let human psychology work its magic here. If someone sees an opening bid on a card at, let's just say, 200,000 points, and it's worth 200,000 points, so it's a reasonable price to get, sticker shock might prevent them from even feeling like it's worth bidding on. However, if the opening bid is 10K and a bid is put in, that gets someone invested in it. They're like, oh, I have a bid in. I'm seeing the bids change. I want that card. So even if the bidding goes higher, even if it goes above that original 200K that they wouldn't have felt comfortable bidding on, due to the fact that they're already invested in that card, they might keep bidding even above that 200K number that they didn't want to put down to start. Additionally, seeing a card at, let's just say, 100,000 points with 10 bids, that looks like a far more interesting card than a card that's at 200K with 0 or in 1 bid. So if you see a card with a lot of bids on it, maybe people will be like, hey, this must be a good card. There's a lot of people bidding on it. Maybe I should get involved. So I think starting low actually makes it more likely that you'll be able to sell a card for a reasonable price. The other thing that could happen, if you list a card high, it doesn't sell, a few more pulled in the meantime, and they're lower price, you're just not going to get the highest price at that point. So you want it to sell, and if it's a card people want, that card will go likely for the price that it deserves to go for. On the buyer side, the biggest complaint I see is folks upset about getting sniped in the last few seconds. This only happens due to the fact that people are looking to potentially get deals instead of the card they actually want. Sniping would never happen if you know the price you're willing to pay and start off by putting the maximum bid that you are willing to pay on that card in. You will always get that card if no one else is willing to get up to your maximum price. And that doesn't mean you won't get a deal. You will get the difference between someone else's highest bid and your highest bid if you win. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a point of trying to bid until the last minute. If there's a card you don't, necessarily want, and maybe you're just trying to get a deal, maybe you could wait, or not driving up the price and waiting until the last second to put in your king bid. Might not convince others to not put in their highest. Might convince others to not put in their highest offer earlier on. But I mean, if folks listen to this video and decide to start putting in their highest bid early, as they should, that won't matter anyways, because everyone's going to be, putting in the price that they're willing to pay for a card. So if there's a card that you want, you should put in the price that you're willing to pay. It doesn't matter when. If someone beats you, I mean, it's higher than you were willing to pay anyways. I really think the auction house has largely been a big success this year. Maybe the minimum auction length is a little too long, but I'd much rather have it this way than put on a schedule where not everyone can see a card that they're looking for. I think the auction house will definitely be a better experience for you and others if you take some of these tips into mind. Good luck going forward. I hope you get a big sale or a big steal on the auction house soon.